Boy, these cameras are small. I'm about to switch them.
It looked great.
Yeah, I'll leave it. I have half and half of my screen, so it looks smaller on mine, I guess. All right. Damn it. Okay. Yes. I'm going to start with a yes. The national championship game is set, and like I said last night on the playback during the first game, we are a long ways away from Kansas, North Carolina, in the national championship. No offense to San Diego State,
Much respect.
and I didn't mean anything by UConn because UConn, we've seen them here many a times. But we'll start with the first game from last night, which was San Diego State FAU, and I think FAU looked like they were going to win this game for about 35 minutes, probably.
Yeah. Up 14 at one point, ended up giving it away. So.
Well, you got to remember what I said about FAU going in. They outscore their opponents in the final 10 minutes of every game, and in this game, they got outscored by 7.
Backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, 18-11. So, I mean, San Diego State stayed with it. Obviously, Matt Bradley didn't play very well going into this game. His few games before this were not great. They needed him. He had 21, hit 5 shots, 5 for 12 from the field. So they needed him to get going. There was the weird thing where San Diego State was getting every single offensive rebound on free throws.
Yeah.
They had 12 offensive boards, and they missed 9 free throws. So, I mean, I don't really think did FAU give the game away? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't necessarily think they gave the game away. I just think San Diego State's defense finally stepped up to what they were and hit a miracle shot at the buzzer.
So. I would say FAU played this game like they played every single game in the tournament.
Haven't they been behind most games though? They were.
Yeah, that was the difference. That was the difference.
Yeah,
but statistically, they made 9 threes. They'd been making 8 or 9 in every game.
Yeah,
they got to be the only team in the history to get to a Final Four that made either 8 or 9 threes in every single game, like that exact number.
Yeah.
I mean, if there couldn't be a team that's made 5 or 6 in every game. It's just they either made 8 or they made 9. Yeah. No in between. And San Diego State, you're probably not going to see them shoot 50% from 3 very often. 9 for 18. Obviously, it helps when Matt Bradley makes 4. I mean, Elijah Martin was good at 26. I would actually say great. 7 for 13 shooting.
Yeah.
John L. Davis, you probably expect a little bit more out of him, given the fact that he scored 29 in the second round and 15 against Tennessee and double figures in every game, only at 8. Here, I think that's probably more so of a, he's a 6'4" guy playing the 3, and you're playing a team that plays elite defense. So, I mean, you probably run into some trouble there. I don't think that's that surprising. One thing that was a little bit surprising for me, I guess it's because Florida Atlantic doesn't really get in the paint very often unless it's golden, is that San Diego State only had 2 blocks. Mensah had 1 block. He was blocking a lot of shots going into this game. He had 3 against Creighton, 5 against Alabama, and 2 in the other 3 or the other 2 tournament games. So that was a bit of a surprise. They only had 2 blocks.
Yeah, his only block was on a 3 too.
Yeah, and you look at like the experience factor. I think also helps down the stretch for San Diego State in a game like this because the Final Four is such a different environment and feel than any other tournament game, especially the Final Four, because of the venue is different. The state, everything just feels different, and that's one thing that sets apart, what the tournament is before this. But I mean, you look up and down San Diego State. Bradley's a 5th-year senior. Lamont Butler is a junior that's played 3 years, and he's played a lot of minutes in 2 of those 3 years. Trammell is in his 3rd year at this level, but obviously played before that, and he was at Seattle. Mensah is a 5th-year senior, and then Keyshawn Johnson is in his 4th year and played a lot of minutes in 3 of those 4 years. So that's their 5 starters. And then you look up and down Florida Atlantic, Elijah Martin, 3rd year, listed as a sophomore, only played big minutes the last 2 years. John L. Davis, 3rd year, same thing. Nick Boyd is a freshman, but in the second season, and he's playing a lot more minutes. I'm assuming that they're all listed as this because of the COVID year or something. I don't know what
Who knows?
what Ken Pom's doing to me here, but Brian Greenlee apparently was at Minnesota. Don't remember that at all. It's his fourth season.
Yeah, did I say like Minnesota? Their old team had 5 guys playing in the Elite Eight or 6 guys in the Elite Eight. From like if they would have all stayed together, they would have still been at Minnesota.
That feels right. That feels right. Yeah, I mean, just a wild game with a wild finish. I think if you're the NCAA, you're probably happy.
Yeah,
that you got this.
Definitely happy you got this. And then the second game was a snoozer, and everybody could go to bed early. So
yeah, Miami, UConn, kind of a typical UConn game in this tournament where they just have too much. It's just too much.
They do. They just have so many weapons. They're just. I want to say that they're well coached, and I know that you're gonna love me saying that, but just their actions and the way they move, everything's with a purpose. It seems every guy knows what they need to do. Top tier blobs. So
that's right. Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way. Final score was 72-59. It's about right. Probably should have been like 15, but that's all right. And if Adama Sanogo is going to go 2 for 3 from 3, then I think you're done.
Yeah. When he started off hitting those early,
he can do it, but it's just you don't really expect it from a guy who looks like Kofi Coburn if Kofi were a little bit smaller.
I think that he said he's made some this year, but it was his first one since January or something.
Yep.
Like he hadn't made one since January.
Well, he made one on March 1st, but before that it was early February.
Okay. Gotcha.
Let's put it this way. He would have been Illinois' best 3-point shooting percentage player this season at 36.5. I'm pretty sure that's higher than where Meyer finished. So
yeah,
there you go.
And Miami is just they're just a sloppy team, and UConn pulled out the slop for them. So missed 14 layups. Is that right?
Yeah, 13 for 42 inside the arc.
Ugh.
Not good. They shot a better percentage from 3. One thing that they have, though, is they shot 100% from the free throw line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this wasn't a coaching mismatch, but this was a style mismatch.
Right. Yeah, I'm not saying
because obviously Larinaga is a really good coach, but yeah, I think that you just look at the experience and then the mix of the guys that have come in and not been in these spots before, like Joey Calcaterra from San Diego. He played there last year. They weren't in this spot. Alex Caravan's a freshman. Tristan Newton's coming over from East Carolina. And then you also have the guys that have been in the tournament before at UConn but haven't had success. That's Sanogo. That's Jackson. And then Donovan Clingan is a guy that I saw a tweet last night that said that Donovan Clingan would be drafted in the first round if he entered the draft this year. And that's kind of a little bit of a reason why it's confusing as to how the NBA teams and scouts view players, but I'm going to try to find the tweet so I can read what it said. But I know that I saw a response to it. That's how I saw the tweet in the first place where, of course, Ant Wright said Walker Kessler is going to get this dude overdrafted because Walker Kessler's been terrific in the NBA to this point.
Yeah.
Sam Vecini, he writes about basketball for The Athletic. NBA.
He's not a basketball, he writes about it, right?
Yeah. Brian Hodgson's the new basketball at Arkansas State, but other than that, he writes about the NBA and the NBA draft. He said, guys, I'm telling you, if Donovan Clingan enters this draft, there's no way some NBA team isn't taking him in the first round. He's 7'2". The movement is legit impressive. Yep. The per possession production is insane. And the defensive metrics when he's on the court are wild. So that's a guy that UConn
for a guy that played 13 minutes,
exactly,
had 6 rebounds and 4 points.
So. But the numbers look great apparently, and obviously he blocks shots. That says a lot about this UConn team. When what is Clingan probably like their 9th best player?
Yeah, probably.
Eighth best player would have been a first round pick, or it could be a first round pick. I mean, I'm pretty sure he'll come back and probably be all Big East, kind of like Kalkbrenner style for Creighton. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just think that this UConn team is. I think the best thing that could have happened to them was starting 5-6 in the Big East. I think that's probably the best thing that could happen to them because they were 14-0 and 3-0 to start, and they hit a wall.
Yeah.
And ever since being 5-6 and 16-6 overall, they're now 14-2 since that. So, and I don't think that I don't want to spoil the national championship preview part yet, but I feel like this game might be out of control.
Ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you got to hope that the defense in Miami doesn't play much defense.
No, but I don't think it matters.
But it just seemed like UConn had Miami playing with their hair on fire the whole game. And when you get Wong and Pack, those guys kind of get a little quick, a little out of control. That's why UConn dominated this game, I think.
Yeah, this will be the San Diego State defense will be their third real test against a defensive team that's good efficiency wise. Obviously, San Diego State's better than anybody that they've played defensively in terms of the metrics. St. Mary's was a top 10 defense. They scored 70 on them. And Arkansas was a top 20 defense. They scored 88 on them. So I think the difference here between San Diego State and Arkansas is the experience level and the fact that they are just much more of a defensive identity team. But also UConn is that too. Like Dan Hurley is a defensive coach. And
that's why they have so many weapons, and then they play good defense on top of it. So
yeah, and they have a lot of guys that can handle the ball and make plays.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Like Tristan Newton had 8 assists, Andre Jackson had 4, Naheem Aline had 3. And 19 assists on 28 field goals is pretty elite. And it's a different level because UConn has reached a different level in this tournament. And we are in the midst of what could possibly end up being the most dominant run ever because they're averaging, I think their deficit right now is averaging 20.6 over their opponents. So I would think that this trend is probably going to continue. They fit the bill of they're the only team left that fits the bill of a national champion, which is from a metric standpoint, I guess being in a power conference probably helps from that, standpoint. And they have pros. Jordan Hawkins is a pro. Donovan Clingan is a pro. Andre Jackson's probably going to get his shot somewhere. I mean, Sonogo, if he can shoot the 3, who knows? But we'll see. I mean, I think the fact that they held a Miami team that had been scoring at the level they've been scoring, they went 85, 89, 88 going into this game, and they scored 59.
Yeah.
UConn can just suck teams in. And if they do that against San Diego State, then I think that it's going to be like 65-32 at one point, So no disrespect to San Diego State, but I would almost, and I hope they don't hear this, but I would almost hear I would almost say there's a 0% chance that San Diego State wins this game. I mean, seriously, they're not winning. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I just think that UConn's too much. As good as San Diego State's defense can be, UConn can hurt you in multiple different ways.
FAU scored 71 against San Diego State. So
yeah.
And FAU's scoring mostly comes from 3 or throwing it to a 7-footer that doesn't have as much offensive skill as Sonogo, even though Sonogo's only 6'9", but Sonogo can handle anybody.
Yeah.
Especially if you have to respect him around the perimeter, then you're done. And Andre Jackson has probably been the most important player on this run.
Yeah, if it tells you anything, the spread for the UConn Miami game was 5, and the spread for the UConn San Diego State game is 7. So,
which almost feels disrespectful to UConn. That feels low.
It seems low.
I think it should be like 10.5.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think the women. This is the first time in a long time where the women's national championship is probably more compelling in the men's. Not for me per se, but I think for a lot of people,
Yeah,
especially since the Big Ten's about to be back in full
It's true.
force.
it's
Since
true.
the Big Ten, I mean, right now the Big Ten has some dying programs, aka Michigan, because Kobe Buffkin is foregoing his eligibility and leaving. So I think that says a lot about their roster construction and where they're headed this season, that he didn't even
Is
keep
that
his eligibility.
factual or that come out already?
Michigan Twitter account posted it.
Really?
Yeah, Kobe Buffkin is elected to forego his remaining eligibility and enter the 2023 NBA draft.
Wow.
They're going nowhere fast, and that tells you right there. So Juwan Howard is going to hear a lot of noise in the next year. Anyway, who cares about them? Hunter Dickens is going to Illinois. All right, UConn, San Diego State, Monday night. Stage is set. I mean, if you're on the East Coast, you got to be a little bit annoyed that it's a 9:20 tip.
10:30.
Holy hell.
Insane.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying yesterday in the playback.
Well, the game will be over in an hour, probably.
That's true. You only got to watch a little bit of it. First,
I mean, this is as big of a – I'm going to look at the Ken Palm, just the last few national championships and the difference in ranking, because right now UConn's number 1 on Ken Palm and San Diego State is 14th. 2022, Kansas was 3. Okay, so it's the exact same as last year. Kansas was 3, North Carolina was 16, so that's 13 spots. Back-to-back years with a 13-spot difference between the national championship teams. 2021, we had 1 versus 2, Gonzaga, Baylor. And then 3 and 4 were, of course, Big Ten teams, as was number 7 and number 11 and number 14. The Big Ten had 5 top 15 Ken Palm teams in 2021, and the only one that got to the Elite 8 was Michigan. Michigan was 3, Illinois was 4, Iowa was 7, Ohio State 11, Wisconsin 14. I mean, that is insane. 2019, we had Virginia and Texas Tech. That was 1 versus 5 on Ken Palm. 2018, we had Villanova and Villanova, Michigan, which was 1 versus 7. 2017, we had North Carolina and Gonzaga, I believe. That sounds right? Yeah. That was actually 1 versus 3, and Gonzaga was number 1, and they lost. 2016, we had Villanova, North Carolina. That was 1 versus 2. 2015, we had Wisconsin, Duke. That was 2 versus 3. And I don't think that these rankings dramatically change after the championship game. So going into the game, I'm sure the rankings are similar. 2014, I'm trying to go off the top of my head. 2014, who the hell played in 2014?
I don't know that.
UConn, Kentucky, I believe. UConn, Kentucky, and that was 13 versus 15. Because Kentucky, that was an 8 versus a 7 in the national championship. So if you think 4 versus 5 is weird, we had an 8 versus 7 9 years ago, and the 7 seed won, and that was just so happens to be the 4 seed this year. 2013, we had Louisville, Michigan. That was 1 versus 4. 2012, I'm only gonna go back to 20. I'll go back to 2002. Why not?
Excuse me?
Yeah, 2012 was 2012. That was Anthony Davis, Kentucky. That was Kentucky and Kansas. That was 1 versus 4. You should pull up the national champion matchups by years, so just in case I get one wrong.
Yep.
2011 was UConn, Kentucky, I think. No, that couldn't have been. No, because Kentucky played 2014. 2011 was UConn and
what year are you on?
2011, UConn and
crap team that shouldn't have been there.
UConn and UConn, North Carolina. No, I don't even.
Butler.
I'm just gonna. Okay, yeah. Oh, God, how did I forget that? 2010 was Butler and Duke. That was 1 versus 12. So 13 is the biggest gap we've seen so far, and that happened the last 2 years. 2009 was North Carolina, Michigan State, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was 1 versus 9. 2008 was Kansas, Memphis, 1 versus 2. 07 was Florida and Florida, Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
That was 2 versus 3. 06 was Florida and Florida UCLA. Okay.
Yeah.
That was 1 versus 7. I guess we'll say 2005. 2005 was Illinois, North Carolina. That was 1 versus 2. Bullshit. 2004, this is where it gets a little lost for me, but I believe 2004 was UConn and
I don't think you're going to get this.
I can get it. UConn and UConn. Xavier? No. Xavier had a good year that year, though.
It's not a team that you would expect to make the national championship.
What seed were they?
I don't know. I don't have the seeds.
UConn. It was UConn. So what happened was that UConn ended up playing like a team, Georgia Tech.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I only knew that because it said they played 38 games. All right. 03 was Jesus. I don't even remember who won in 03.
Your boy.
Kansas.
Your favorite coach now.
Oh yeah, Boeheim.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about Boeheim and Syracuse, and Syracuse beat Kansas for sure.
Yep.
All right, and the last one, 02.
Last Big Ten champion.
02 was well, they weren't in the Big Ten. But
I know.
02 was Maryland, right?
Nope. Over
another Big Ten squad.
Yeah.
The Hoosiers went 25-12 that year. So that was, I forgot the whole purpose of this. That was 3 versus 6. And,
you were doing the differences in rankings.
Yeah. What did I say? 03 was Syracuse. Okay, so that was 2 versus 8. And then I forgot to do 04, which was 04. While it was Georgia Tech in there, they were 3 seeds. They were good.
Yeah.
But that was 04 was 2 versus 8. So the gap has never been 13 except for this year and last year. Even though I think if San Diego State plays well, even if they win, the gap will be lower than 13. So essentially, this was the craziest Final Four we've probably ever seen. But national championship wise, there's precedent for this. Sorry, I used the wrong word there. Same sound, but just a different, the C and the S, of course. And
Correct.
The E and the I. But the craziest Final Four, yes. National championship, though, we've seen stuff like this before. Like 4 versus 5 is not as crazy as 7 versus 8. And 7 versus 8 was 9 years ago. The only difference was it was Kentucky as an 8 and UConn as a 7. This is San Diego State as a 5. And San Diego State, as we alluded to in the last show, they've won a lot of games under Brian Dutcher, but in terms of program history, let me just find this here. In terms of program history, it's not the best of the best. Where the hell is the paper? Here it is. Jesus.
Got too many binders.
I have a ton of stuff over here. I haven't even looked at most of it for like 2 weeks. 15 tournament appearances and only got to the Sweet 16 3 times. And one of those was this year, and the other 2 were in the 2010s. And and I think some teams that, if you look at the year 2020 where we didn't have a tournament, there were teams that kind of got robbed of either not getting the chance to play in the tournament, or that's actually the only thing that happened to them. But San Diego State's one of those teams that's kind of gotten back, because they were 30-2 that year. One team that I still feel bad for that really hasn't even gotten close is Dayton. I mean, Dayton that year was going to be a 1 seed. They were 29-2. Their offense was high flying. They were fun. They had Obi Toppin. They had Jalen Crutcher. That team could have gone on a really deep run, and they haven't gotten back since. Another team that didn't get back until this year was Penn State. They were going to be a pretty formidable. They were probably going to be a 6 seed that year. They ended up getting back this year. Obviously, we've seen Illinois get back when they were going to be in that year, and then they have obviously gotten back and still refused to get to the second weekend, but that's all right. But BYU would have been a 5 that year, according to KenPom. They were 24-8. They haven't really gotten back. Louisville, obviously, I don't know what the deal is with Louisville. Actually, I do know what the deal is. They suck. And their coach, let me find this tweet for you. Their coach, assistant coach Nolan Smith, former terrific guard at Duke, just a super stupid tweet. First of all, the idea of the mid-range shot not being a good shot is not something that you say in a situation where you are down 1 at the buzzer. You have to take the shot.
Right.
So, I don't know who Pooh Jeter is. I don't know who the hell that is. Some sort of person that sent this tweet. One dribble pull up and analytics say mid-range is a bad shot. They don't know. And then 4 laughing faces with the heads tilted. And Nolan Smith said analytic guys would have wanted a step back 3. What it was the end of it. I know that your ass is not talking shit when your team just went 4-27.
Wouldn't analytic guys rather you go to the basket? And
here's what Kevin Sweeney said, which I retweeted. I assume the quote analytic guys know enough math to know that 2 and 3 mean the same thing in a 1-point game with the clock expired. I don't understand that. Like, that tweet is just
and that's coming for. I'm sorry, but there have been so many coaches at end of game possessions that have had guys shoot step back threes. There's no analytic guy out there saying that's a good shot.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I mean, you're down by 1 and the clock is expiring. You just I don't understand why we shouldn't even Nolan Smith is a great player, but don't even tweet about college basketball this year, okay? How about you get busy maybe trying to help build a team and not relying on a guard who quit on his team 3 months into the season? You just won 4 games and you're talking shit about, quote, analytic guys, which is just like it's stupid. You're just tweeting it to tweet it. It's dumb. It makes no sense. You're losing credibility. I mean, you coach at Louisville, who's a disaster of a program. Florida State has made the tournament a couple times. They really haven't gotten back, though, since 2020 in terms of being where they were at that time, which is a likely 2 seed. And you know who's kind of really fallen off the rails since COVID is the ACC regular season. You remember when the ACC regular season didn't completely suck at the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Pitt was the worst team in the ACC 3 years ago. They really weren't that bad. They were bad, but they weren't that bad. But then after that, COVID has kind of killed that because ever since then you had Boston College, Wake Forest, and Miami all won 5 games or less in 2021 in the ACC. And obviously NC State went 4-16 in the ACC last year. And then this year, I mean, Louisville and Notre Dame were historically bad, but shout out to the ACC. Shout out to Louisville. Louisville's back, apparently. Yes. As long as they don't rely on those analytic guys, you know? Louisville was never down 1 point with the clock expiring. They were down 100 points with the clock expiring. But, I mean, you look at the metrics here. San Diego State's offense is 68th in efficiency. UConn's is 3rd. And here's where that's where the big mismatch is. But matchup-wise, I mean, UConn's defense is 8th in efficiency and San Diego State's is 4th. So when UConn has the ball, you have the number 3 efficient offense against number 4 efficiency defense. And when San Diego State has the ball, you have the number 68 efficiency offense against the number 8 efficiency defense. So I think UConn is going to have to do a little bit of hoping and praying on in this game that UConn or that San Diego State is going to have to do. San Diego State's going to have to do a little bit of hoping and praying that UConn doesn't make shots, I guess, would be. Because I don't really like UConn moves way too well with or without the ball.
Yeah.
Where I think you're kind of screwed either way, especially when they're all playing like this. And they've all been playing like this for a while now. So, and UConn kind of feels unbeatable with these uniforms in this setting. I know they lost to Xavier wearing these uniforms. But other than that, these uniforms have been as elite gets.
Yeah.
And Dan Hurley, this would be a big title for myself. Really, would kind of be where I'm at on it.
Looking out for yourself, that boy.
Yeah, this would be a big one for me. being the Hurley guy that I am, I always thought that Dan Hurley had the better chance of the two, but I didn't think he would, I guess, get there before Bobby Hurley even got. I thought Bobby Hurley would at least get to like a second weekend at Arizona State, but it is Arizona State, so
Sure.
whatever. UConn's obviously better, but Dan Hurley really redeeming himself after the last couple of years where he had some good teams and couldn't get out of the first round. So got out of the first round twice at Rhode Island, though, so shout out to him for that. UConn, San Diego State, Jim Nance, last hoorah for Jim Nance.
Yeah, sad deal.
And my dog's barking still, and I'm probably going to have to go get him. You also have the Masters with Jim Nance coming up. That's good. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And all right, I'm taking UConn to win this game. I'm going to go 89-42 as the final score. Yeah,
I'm going to take UConn also. I'm going to be more realistic. I'm going to say 72-59. Is that the same score that Miami?
That was the same score. Yeah.
All right, give me that again.
That makes sense. But yeah, we'll be back here probably directly after the game to talk about it for about 10 minutes, probably, which is what we usually do. Might be 5 minutes if the score is what I say the score is going to be.
It's true.
Haven't decided if I'm going to go and play back for the national championship yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'll say 22% chance that I do. So pretty good odds. Yeah, we will be back after the national championship game. Go Huskies. Dan Hurley, get it done. This is a legacy title for me. This is for my legacy. So hopefully we can get it done. If not, I could spin zone into saying that I'm a Brian Dutcher guy. He was a grad assistant in Illinois, so I'm obviously a big Brian Dutcher guy. Everybody knows that. I've talked about Brian Dutcher for about 25 years now. But anyway, we'll see everybody on Monday night.